As I speak to you, in fact at this very moment, on Mount Graham, Arizona, just outside of Tucson, the Vorg, that's V-O-R-G, which stands for Vatican Observatory Research Group, is using the world's largest large binocular telescope near infrared utility with camera and integrated field unit for extragalactic research, otherwise known as Lucifer telescope, and is reportedly tracking either a singular large object or a large armada of objects in the outer regions of our solar system on a direct trajectory toward Earth. This is being conducted in conjunction with the Arizona State University's SOFIA project, in which the stated aim is to investigate the experiences of people who claim to channel or communicate with deceased people, spirit guides, angels, otherworldly entities, extraterrestrials, and or a universal intelligence or God. Have I got your attention? What I just read, fantastic as it may sound, is absolutely true. And it is easily validated by a simple Google search if you want to go and check it out. I didn't make it up, and someone else didn't make it up either. But sometimes an idea, although true, can be so foreign to our worldview that no matter how true it is, it just seems utterly ridiculous. Jesus, I think, often said things that were so foreign to the worldview of the people of his day that they also seemed to them utterly insane. And I think we miss the effect of most of those statements because we don't have the worldview that they had in the first century. And the New Testament makes it clear to us that there were people in his day who obviously thought that he was nuts, or even worse. In Mark chapter 3, for example, we read about one occasion when even his own family came basically to collect him and take him back home because, as they said, he was out of his mind. In John chapter 10, after talking about laying down his life and then taking it back up again, most of the people there said he was either insane or he had a demon. In truth, some of the things that Jesus said were irrational. They defied even common sense and probably all common experience. For example, in John chapter 6, he says that unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life. And on its face, that's crazy. Because on its face, that's cannibalism. In John chapter 10, he talks about being the good shepherd, and he says that the good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. And if you think about that, if that really happened, how would that be good? Is death itself good? Or is it good for the sheep if the shepherd dies out in the field? I want you to imagine that for just a moment, because I think what Jesus was saying here was actually on the border of being ridiculous, and that was the whole point. If a shepherd is out in the field with his sheep and he sees a pack of wolves come out, and he takes his staff and goes after them, and maybe he takes down one and possibly he takes down two before the pack eventually takes him down, and so he gives his life for the sheep. What happens to the sheep now? That the shepherd is no longer there. See, I think the point was that no real shepherd in Jesus' day was likely to do anything like that. But Jesus does do it for us. The point is that Jesus, or God's love for us, is not rational. It's not utilitarian. Jesus didn't just give his life for us because he is responsible, but because he is good. And a big part of being good is the fact that he loves. And love is not rational. Love is simply passionate. In fact, I've become convinced that even if the cross would have done no good at all, Jesus very likely would have died for us anyway. One of my favorite proverbs is in Proverbs chapter 6, beginning at verse 32, where it says, "He who commits adultery is stupid. He does it to destroy himself. Wounds and dishonor he will get, and his disgrace will not be wiped away For jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation, and he will refuse though you multiply gifts. Love and jealousy are not rational. They are often insane. In the Song of Solomon, chapter 8 and verse 6, we read, "Set me as a seal upon your heart, as a seal upon your arm, for love is strong as death, jealousy is fierce as the grave. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord." That's not reason, that's not logic, that's not utilitarian, that's just sheer passion. And that's what God feels toward us. In Luke chapter 15, Jesus told, I think, a series of stories that were designed to illustrate this even further. But if you don't understand how really crazy these stories are, I think you might miss the point. The first story he told was the story of the lost sheep, we say. A shepherd's out in the field and he's got, I guess, 100 sheep. One of them strays off. He leaves the 99 behind in the field unprotected, and he goes in search of one stupid stray. No, shepherds don't do that, because that's a good way to lose your entire flock. And then Jesus says when he finds the one, he calls all of his friends and says, "Rejoice with me, because I found my sheep that was lost." And if you were listening to that in Jesus' day, you were probably asking yourself, "But where's the rest?" In which case you say, "Oops." And then he tells one about a lost coin that a woman lost in her home. She spends a whole day tearing her house upside down, trying to find one coin. And when she finally finds it, she invites all of her neighbors in and she throws a block party. Now, first of all, unless it was a 1969 S. Lincoln cent with a double die-off verse worth $35,000, you're probably not going to tear your whole house upside down looking for one coin. What she probably was looking for was simply a denarius or something even less, worth maybe, I don't know, $5 or $10. And then when she finds it, we're to believe that she orders pizza and calls all the neighbors over, spending $30 or $40 to throw a party because she found maybe a $20 bill. And then the neighbors call Bellevue to send out the guys with pretty white coats. And then he tells a third story, a story about a father and his sons. And one of the sons comes to him and says, "I want my share of the inheritance now." And the father just gives it to him. And the son goes off to Vegas and he wastes it all. And when he realizes what he has done and he's broke and he's penniless, he comes back to the father. And the father meets him on the way back and throws a party for him. And I can tell you, as a father, that's the most ridiculous story of the three. First of all, no father is likely to give away half of his own retirement to one of his sons to go to Vegas and waste it. And secondly, even if he did, he certainly would not throw a party for the kid when he came home penniless and wanted to live off of the family now for the rest of his life. You see, we've been right to understand that these three parables describe how much God loves us, but we fail to understand how much that really is, because we fail to understand that these stories are insane. They are completely irrational. There was no Jew in the days of Jesus who would have heard these stories and said, "You know, that exact thing happened to me just last month." There's no father who would have heard this story about the prodigal son and would have said, "Yep, that's exactly what I would have done." They would have all gone away saying things like, "Boy, if one of my kids did that, I'd just write them out of my will altogether." Or if one of my boys did that, yeah, I'd probably take him back. I'd probably even forgive him. But hey, no way I'd throw a party for him. I think maybe that's why so many people have such a hard time really believing in God. He's not like anything that we experience or know from our own experiences. But it's that very ridiculousness of these that hopefully made them think as they left, what was really the point of those stories? Do you suppose he was trying to say that that's how God actually does love us? That's crazy. That's way over the top. It's not just beyond what we would do. It's beyond what we would even consider sane. But crazy as it sounds, it's true. And it's happening right now, even as I speak. So what does all that have to do with homecoming week? Because this is about homecoming week. You know, the highlight event for most schools is homecoming. You get to watch a ball game, there are alumni reunions, somebody's going to get crowned queen. It's exciting, it's fun, we anticipate it, we look forward to it. But not all homecomings are fun. I have an uncle that almost got shot once coming home because he forgot to tell my grandparents that he was coming home. And he just walked into the house in the middle of the night, and Granddaddy had a bead laid on him before Grandmother realized who he was and stopped him. In 1990, I went home. I was 30 years old. I was out of work. I was married. I had 2 children. And I had to move back in with my parents while I looked for work. And I can tell you, that was not fun. It was very tense. But the end or the hope of a Christian's faith is that we are going to go home. And a part of what makes that exciting is that it will involve a time when there will no longer be any pain, there will no longer be any death. We'll know the end of sin. We'll have a powerful new body. We'll hopefully experience reunions with loved ones. There'll be a lot of food. I don't know if you realize that or not, but virtually every post-resurrection account of Jesus in the New Testament involves food, even including the marriage feast in Revelation 19. But if you miss this point, you miss something really important. And that is that what really makes homecoming special for a Christian is that we're going home to someone who, as fantastic as it may sound, is literally out of his mind, over the top, insanely, and ridiculously in love